Hi, and thank you for watching us here at Tax Talk UK, where we talk about all things tax and consider other important aspects of working for yourself, being self-employed, running a small business. So today, as part of our bite-sized video series showing you how to get the most from your Freeagent software, we're going to talk about the difference between bills and expenses, what each means and when to use them and what to be aware of. Before I get into that, if you're new here, please do take a moment to subscribe to our YouTube channel. That way you'll easily be able to refer back to this information if you should need to, as well as being able to find other information that we have on a whole wide range of topics, all aimed at supporting you in your self-employment. If you navigate to the playlist section of our YouTube channel and look for the Freeagent guidance, you will in there be able to find other videos in the Freeagent demo series. So back then to Freeagent and what is the difference between a bill and an expense in the software. So the first thing to remember, as we talk about a lot in a lot of different topics, is sometimes there is different ways of saying the same thing, different phrases or different words that actually they're just jargon and they just all mean the same. Or there's also the on the other flip of the coin where the same word can mean different things in different contexts, and particularly when you come to software for your Making Tax digital software, different providers use different words for different things. So it's important to note that, I feel, because it can knock your confidence when you think, well, I thought that I understood what that meant, and so now I don't understand why it's that. It's just it's not any detriment on your understanding. It's just that much as a lot of things in the English language, different words are used in sort of different ways. So coming then specifically to your Freeagent software, of course, what we're talking about today is bills and expenses. So we want to know how they're used in the context of your Freeagent software. So it is important to understand what we're trying to achieve in the software, and that will help you as well to have an understanding of when you need to use bills and when you need to use expenses and what the difference is. So if you can have a good understanding of what you're aiming to achieve, then this will help you to navigate which of the functions would be most appropriate. So ultimately, what we are trying to achieve is in the software, we're trying to ultimately end up with a accurate set of accounts for your business, so that we know accurately how much income your business has earned, what expenses have been incurred, or what expenditure. And note then I use the word expenses, and this is exactly why it can be very confusing. So in that context, I was referring to the expenditure on the profit and loss, and ultimately that will give us the net profit for tax purposes, which is what we need that to be. We need that to be correct, because ultimately that's what we're aiming for, accurate accounts. So what we're also trying to achieve is an accurate balance sheet. So we're looking to know who you owe money to, who owes money to you, how long that's been outstanding, how that's made up, how much you've got in your bank account, all those things that you would see on your balance sheet. And if you are VAT registered, we also want to accurately know how much VAT you've charged and received on your sales, and how much you have paid out on your purchases and your expenditure, to enable us to also to be able to compile an accurate VAT return. So ultimately, that is what we're looking to achieve in the software. So if we just jump into the demo software, I'm going to start actually looking at the things that we are going to achieve when we're using bills and expenses, and explain when you would use each one. So here we are then on the demo dashboard. So if I firstly go into the bank account and into the transactions that we've got waiting for approval, so you will realize that this is the bank feed from our business bank account, and the transactions that have fed directly from our bank into our Freeagent software. So some items we will just be categorizing directly from the software, and we cover that in other videos. So I won't go into how to do that specifically. But let's say, for example, that this is a payment out, and it is for advertising. So if we've just made that payment direct to the merchant, then we could just categorize it direct from the software. And we would also say here, if we're VAT registered, whether we are paying any VAT on that. So by categorizing that directly, we're directly putting into the account. Go back to the initial thing that we talked about of what we're aiming to achieve. We've directly told Freeagent in terms of our expenditure, what that cost is. We've said how much VAT it is. We're telling, because we're categorizing directly, there's no impact on the creditors or the people that you owe money to, because we're just categorizing it directly. So in terms of the balance sheet, it's just going to reduce the profit and loss and reduce the bank account. So everything that's needed from that transaction will be completely satisfied by categorizing it directly. But as we've talked about previously, if we are wanting to keep an accurate record of who you owe money to and how much you've owed, who specifically you owe what to, how that's made up, how long it's been outstanding to, then this is where the bills would be used within the Freeagent software. So the bills allows us to enter the purchase invoice. So a bill in terms of the Freeagent software is another word for describing the purchase invoices that we have. So it's exactly the same thing. So by entering a bill, what we are doing is we are entering it because it perhaps hasn't been paid at that point, or we wanted to specifically keep a track of a certain supplier. So if I look into the open bills, we can see here we've got an open bill for £100. And if we just click into that, we can see here that what we've done is by entering that bill, by putting that purchase invoice, accounting for that in our software, we have told Freeagent that we have incurred this expenditure. We have said how much it's for, whether it has VAT, so we've accounted for our VAT. So at this point, we have affected our profit and loss. We have incurred that expenditure into our profit and loss, therefore reducing our profit. But in this instance, because we haven't categorized directly from the bank, we haven't impacted our bank balance. What we have done is we have impacted our creditors or our accounts payable. We have told Freeagent that we have incurred this cost, we've got it, but we haven't paid it yet. So therefore, that would show on our supplier's report to show us that this bill is outstanding, how much it's for, when it was incurred, and who it's owed for. So this is when we would use the bill function. So bill in terms of Freeagent is the same really as purchase invoice. That's what you are meaning when you are entering a bill. So the reason that we would use it is to be able to keep a track of our creditors. And then if we just navigate back to our bank feed, what we would do once that bill is paid is we would mark it as paid here in the bank feed. And at that point, you're not doing anything with your profit and loss, because you've already accounted for that in terms of the expenditure, in terms of any purchase VAT if you're VAT registered. But as we just mentioned, it is outstanding with that supplier. So by allocating that payment to the bill, marking it paid, you are therefore reducing the bank balance and reducing the amounts owed to your creditors. So that is when you will use a bill. So you would use a bill when you don't want to categorize directly, because you want to enter the bill and keep a track of that supplier, and that is what you are doing. So of course, as we can see here, we've got all the transactions fed through from our bank accounts. If we go back to the to all of our bank accounts, you can see that we have got everything allocated here. And even in this account, we have a petty cash. And if we are actually reconciling that against actual petty cash, then we could enter a manual transaction into the petty cash balance to be able to keep an accurate account of our petty cash, and to be able to reconcile, yes, this is what Freeagent says that I have in my petty cash, and this is what I have in my petty cash tin, if you use your petty cash in that way. But what if you have had to make a payment for one reason or another from your personal bank account? Of course, you're not going to connect your personal bank account to your Freeagent business software, because then you would spend a lot of time allocating your all your personal transactions. Perhaps you wouldn't if you have other staff helping you with your Freeagent software. You would only want them to have access to the business transactions. But for whatever reason, it would generally not be practical to be connecting a personal business account that you use predominantly for your personal transactions to your software. So what would you do then if you had paid for that outside of the sort of business finances? Well, this is where your expenses comes in within your Freeagent software. So in terms of your Freeagent software, expenses is the terms used for money, your own money that you have used, and so therefore your sort of personal expenses, things that the business may owe you. You may or may not take that back out of the business. You may leave it until the end of the year, or sort of adjust that. It doesn't matter. But what is important is that that transaction is accounted for in your account. So say, for example, if you had paid for something that was £120, you're VAT registered, and you've paid £100 plus £20 VAT, then you're going to want to be able to reclaim that VAT. Even if you're not VAT registered, you're going to be wanting to claim that expenditure against your income to accurately give a correct profit or loss for your business. So it's important that the thing to always remember is Freeagent will generate your profit and loss, and it will generate a VAT return if you're VAT registered, but the software can only know about what you have told it. So if you haven't entered something into the software, then it won't be included. So even if you have allocated everything that's from your bank feed, if you've paid for it and you haven't paid for it for your bank, then the software won't know. And this is where the expenses comes in. So if we navigate here to My Money, and we can click here, expenses, and if we add new, we can also do the mileage claim, which is a similar a similar concept, that if you don't tell the software, it won't know. But we cover that in a different video, so I shan't go into that in detail now. So let's just have a look at something that's already been incurred. And so you can see here, by entering those expense details, and we have categorized, we've said what that was incurred for, we said how much it was, and what VAT. So therefore, by entering that expense, then that will therefore include in your profit and loss the expenditure. If you're VAT registered and there's any VAT to reclaim, that will also include that. So at any point, if you look into the reports and onto your balance sheet, you can see under your current assets the expense account. So you can see that Freeagent is keeping track of how much of your personal money is there, and at any time you want to take that, you could do so and make the appropriate adjustment for that. But hopefully that helps you to understand when you would use a bill and when you would use an expense, and when you would use neither in Freeagent. So if you were categorizing directly from the bank feed, you would use neither. If you wanted to keep track of the creditor and or the supplier and how much you owe them, then you would enter a bill. You'd enter that sort of second layer into that transaction of entering the bill and then marking that as paid. So kind of, rather than going sort of directly to the chart of accounts through the categorization, you would kind of sort of loop to and on that loop you would have your list of which suppliers you owe which money to, and then you would use expenses for your for personal funds that otherwise they won't be accounted for. So hopefully, but you can understand why I explained first what we were trying to achieve, because by remembering what we are trying to achieve helps you to be able to understand in your mind what you're actually doing when you're using, and that helps you to help whether you're using the bills or the expenses. But the same principle works in all aspects. If you can actually just take a moment to sort of step back and think, what am I trying to achieve? What is this doing? Whatever it is that you're doing, then that will help you to ensure that you are accurately recording your transactions, to get your accurate profit and loss and your accurate VAT return if you're VAT registered. But also, as much as it's right to ensure that it's accurate and the profit isn't overstated, if you have incurred expense, then it's important that that's included, because otherwise your profit would be overstated, and that would mean that you would be paying more tax than actually you had incurred liability for. So hopefully that helps you to understand, and that just explains and answers that question specifically on the bills and expenses. But hopefully, as you learn more of these different things, the overall sort of concept of what you're trying to achieve will become clearer. And so hopefully it sort of builds a picture for you and just helps you to be more confident and really sort of get the most out of your software, as well as making sure that you are building accurate accounting records. So thank you very much for watching. As I mentioned earlier, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to the channel. And if you find the content useful, then please do also like the video. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.